There's a lot of new features and hardware coming to Team Xbox that I think we should talk about. A few days ago on this channel, I posted a roundup of the month of August about all the stuff that Microsoft had announced, and that got my little smooth brain thinking about what is actually still ahead for Team Xbox and things that are coming down the pipeline that we either know about or don't really know about, which we'll talk about here in a second, about that should be getting Xbox fans excited about how the platform is going to enhance, and more than likely how Microsoft is going to expand their footprint in the world of gaming. Remember, Microsoft talks about billions of gamers and only hundreds of millions of consoles that get sold each generation. So they have a massive audience outside the world of the physical console, and so they're looking at unique ways to expand their footprint. And the first one being is that Microsoft has announced that they are going to be bringing xCloud or cloud gaming to the TV sets. Now, I'm going to point to that way because that's where my TV is that I play Xbox on. And so those TVs like that LG OLED out there will eventually ship with Game Pass bundled in. We already see TVs ship with like Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and a whole bunch of others. And Microsoft is looking to get their app on there. And we know that it's coming. Now, the question becomes, when are we going to start seeing these TVs arrive natively with this type of application? If I had to guess, I suspect at CES this year, every January, there's a consumer electronics show. I think it's happening in person. I am not going for many reasons. But I think that might be where we start to see TV's vendors start announcing like, hey, you can buy this LG OLED or Samsung whatever, and it's going to come with Game Pass. And not only that, it's going to come with 3 months free, and all you got to do is just get a controller. It will connect natively, I'm guessing through probably Bluetooth initially, and then you'll be able to start just playing cloud gaming right on these TV sets. This is a huge play for Microsoft, and one of the unique aspects that they're going to be able to deliver directly through the TV and a controller arrangement. I wonder if we'll even see bundles at that point. And we know that this is a lucrative market because Netflix is also approaching the same demographic through a similar model. Although all the details on the Netflix side are not there, we know that they're gearing up because they have the footprint and capability to do it. And so Microsoft is making sure that they capitalize on their technology and their vast game library that they now own to make that a possible arrangement as well. So that is going to be a very big deal when that does happen. And how else might that happen? Like if my LG OLED does not get it, Microsoft has also, do not forget, announced TV streaming hardware, or I should say cloud gaming streaming hardware that will plug in to a device such as an LG OLED or something, or Samsung or whatever, or TCL or whatever TV you have, and allow you to access directly cloud streaming through that device that may not natively have an app. Now, there's a lot of questions about this too, because we all assume it's a dongle, and it may not be a dongle. We don't quite know what it is going to be yet, but it's going to be some sort of minimalist hardware that plugs into an HDMI port, probably powered by the USB port, much like we see on other devices, and then it will allow you to connect a controller to that and access Game Pass through that device and cloud gaming and everything else. Now, the question becomes, is it going to use something like Bluetooth to connect, which I hope not, or will it use the Xbox wireless protocol to connect to that dongle, which I hope that they do, because that is a superior way to play, and it will give users a better way and a reason, honestly, to buy it. We already know that Microsoft has that type of setup in a small dongle, because you used to be able, I don't know if you can still buy it or not, you used to be able to buy a dongle that would connect to your PC and allow that to happen, and so you could connect through your controller directly that way. So we'll be curious to see how Microsoft actually executes that, but that is other hardware that Microsoft has already announced. Now, they haven't given us a shipping date, but I suspect that it's probably going to be sometime next year would make the most sense, but at right now, we don't actually know when Microsoft is going to announce this. Other things that Microsoft has already somewhat announced are themed Xboxes. We're just starting to scratch that surface of what is possible with the Xbox consoles. We've seen people like Xbox Pop Art create some really fantastic, unique custom boxes, and Microsoft is just starting to tinker with that. I also kind of hope we get a white Xbox Series X at some point and a black Series S at some point, although I don't know if they're going to do that because they have a nice differentiator between the two by doing it this way, but it is something that they are considering. Other updates, I should say, that are coming in the world of Xbox that I am anxiously waiting for, that we know are coming but have not been released or announced, or I should say been announced but not yet released, are the updates to the existing controllers, more specifically the Xbox Elite Series 2 and just the last gen controllers, which I was looking for. Well, that's a Stadia controller. That'd be a bad one to grab. But they're bringing what I believe is its DLI, the dynamic latency input update, so DLIU, I guess, whatever you want to call it, to the existing controllers, which does make a difference. There is a small differentiator if you use a last gen controller and a current gen controller with the Series X. You can tell a little bit. And so Microsoft is going to bring that same technology over to last gen controllers and their Series Elite Series 2 hardware, which I am anxiously waiting for because I like the Elite Series 2, despite the fact that it doesn't have a share button. I still really like that controller heft and everything else. And knock on wood, mine has held up exceptionally well for the couple years that I've been using it, and I do use it a lot. So that will be coming sometime maybe this year. Microsoft hasn't officially given us a timeline for that. And the last thing that I do know is coming, but I don't know when, is Microsoft has already begun working on Elite Series 3. Now, one thing we know that will be coming will be a share button. Right now, the existing Elite Series 2 does not have a share button. Microsoft has an Elite Series 3 in the works. That being said, I initially actually thought it was going to launch this year, but I think things really kind of got screwed up by the console supply constraint, because it would have made sense if you think about it. Microsoft last year launches the big console, right? And the console comes out, and who would have known that it was going to be so hard to get for so long? Typically, it's like 6 to 8 months, maybe something like that, to get your hands on a next gen console with the previous launch cycles. But now we're going to be passing that year mark where it's still going to be hard due to supply constraints that Phil Spencer even talks about. Even getting Ethernet ports can be difficult at times. And so Microsoft may have potentially punted this another year so that they didn't have a hardware launch conflicting with the hardware launch or the limited supply of consoles at this point, right? If you kind of see where I'm going, it doesn't make sense to launch new hardware when you can't get the old hardware and they're still trying to get people to buy their consoles. And so there you go. Anyway, so Elite Series 3 controller we know is not going to be coming anytime soon, because if you're going to buy an Elite Series controller and you buy, like, imagine you go out and buy the Halo one that is going to be coming in November, and then a month later or something like that, they announce the Series 3, and you're like looking at your $200 Halo controller going, oh, this thing's out of date already. And that would kind of burn in the wrong potential way. So it may not arrive until potentially next year or even longer. Microsoft took their sweet time updating or releasing the Elite Series 2. And so the Elite Series 3 might be punted out a little bit farther, but we do know that it will be coming. So that's quite a bit of stuff. I mean, we know that TV on xCloud, or xCloud on TVs, I should say. And we also know that the TV streaming hardware is coming sooner rather than later. Microsoft would not have officially announced it unless they were trying to get ahead of some leaks, but we already knew that they were going to go this route because Microsoft had talked about bringing this stuff natively to TVs. So there's a lot going on still to come out of the Xbox camp as they look to spread their input or their impression on the gaming market. Microsoft knows that they have a good lineup for the consoles, and it's going to take some time for them to win over all the hearts and minds of console gamers, but I believe that they're off to a very strong start and that they have already closed the gap from the last generation where it was a 2-to-1 sales ratio. I believe Microsoft has closed that actually quite a bit. While I don't necessarily think they're going to outsell the PlayStation 5 this year, I believe that Microsoft will have a much broader range and reach for gaming. And so eventually it'll be interesting to see if Microsoft may not pass them in console sales. And Microsoft has, again, been really cagey about console sales. They may not pass them in console sales, but I suspect that Microsoft may pass Sony. I don't know about this generation, but maybe they will, as overall gamers, including, I guess, well, actually, I bet if you include PC gamers, they probably beat Sony. But I mean, just from like Xbox Game Pass is going to be the true reach here and milestone markers that Microsoft wants to be measured on. It would just be nice if they told us the actual figures in that a little bit more detail, because it's been a while since we have heard how many people are subscribing to Xbox Game Pass. Maybe they'll tell us this quarter, maybe they won't, but we'll find out. Anyways, folks, those are some things that I am looking forward to. This is just sort of a healthy exercise to keep you updated on what is going on, what's in the pipeline, in the funnel of content coming down in the world of Xbox that we know about. And if you want to stay updated on everything else that is going on in the world of Xbox, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the only BS on this channel is me.